Hi, I'm Karen Thaxton with Live the Pickleball Life. Really excited to have a special guest with us today on the YouTube channel. This is Charlotte Caperton-Kilburn. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
It's Caperton-Kilburn, but that's okay. It's a normal part of what I go through, so no worries.
Well, with the last name like Thaxton, you can imagine how much I have to go through that too. And Charlotte is just down the road, so to speak. I'm in the middle of South Carolina. She is at the College of Charleston, where she is the director of sports nutrition. And Charlotte has been in the sports nutrition field for about the last 21 years. So very excited to have you today. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. Happy to be here and answer some questions and hopefully help people fuel better for their performance on the pickleball court. It's a up and coming sport. It seems like I see a lot of things about that. And so very happy to give hopefully some pointers that can be helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I've had questions on the pickleball court, people saying, what do we need to do about this and that? And I didn't really have the answers. So I thought it would be better to go to somebody who was fully qualified. And one thing that I want to talk about with you is hydration, especially during warm weather. I mean, I know it's important to stay hydrated in all types of weather, but as warmer temperatures get here, whether you're playing indoors or outdoors, you work up quite a sweat with pickleball. And just curious what you feel are the best ways to hydrate and when.
Sure. So hydration should be a daily thing that people do, consistently taking in enough water throughout the day. Usually it's about a half an ounce per pound is a good goal for most people. Now, if you're a heavy sweater, somebody who has, like, if you have a white crust on you after you get finished playing, or if you're doing activities outside, then you're probably a heavy sweater, which means that you need something more than just water. And we also have to be careful about overhydrating, because it's been preached to us so much to drink water. But as people are playing sports, you lose potassium, you lose sodium being the number one thing that you lose in your sweat. I know lots of people don't like Gatorade, but quite frankly, Gatorade is formulated to provide us what we actually lose in our sweat. So it's not something that I think people should be going out to the store and buying and drinking in your car. But if you're on the pickleball court, or if it's 30 minutes before pickleball, then Gatorade would be a good thing for you to drink. Now, not over drinking it while you're on the pickleball court. It depends on how long you're there, as to how much you should actually drink. Typically, for about every 15 minutes, it's about 6 to 8 ounces of fluid that you should take in, depending on if you're going to be on the court for longer than 60 minutes. So you have to think about that. Or if you have back-to-back tournaments, it can be really important to start that process at the 45-minute mark, as far as maybe Gatorade is concerned or something like that. I picked Gatorade because of the formulation of the carbohydrates, the sodium that is in it, and the potassium. I know you mentioned some things about body armor. Well, one of the first ingredients on the bottle that you sent to me, or one of the second ingredient, is erythritol, which is a sugar alcohol. And for some people, that can cause GI upset if that's what you're consistently drinking, is that particular one. The normal body armor doesn't have enough sodium in it to actually replace the amount of sodium that we lose when we're sweating. So that's fine. You could drink it and eat some, pretzels with it. But if you're somebody that sugar alcohols, they can cause loose stool, just your stomach doesn't feel good, lots of things like that. And that can come from other places. There's actually bars that have sugar alcohols in it that bother some people if they're using those as a piece of their intake. So you have to look at what happens when you drink those things, eat those things. Really, really important, to look into those things. Now, in tournament, I'm sorry.
Did you say erythritol? What was it?
Erythritol.
Are there others we need to watch out for?
They are, and they end in OL. Those are the ingredients. Sorbitol is one. Sometimes those are in our toothpaste, they're in our chewing gum, they're in a lot of different places. So imagine if you're sitting on the pickleball court drinking Body Armor all day long that has erythritol in it. And I don't think all of their products do. I'm not sure. I didn't look at the label, so the one you sent me might have been their low sugar one or something.
Right. And then I think they have a regular version, and then they have a version that includes caffeine.
Right. And the regular version is the one that, if you're looking at it as a hydrator, it is low on the amount of sodium that you need. Like I said, as far as how much sodium we typically lose as we sweat. So,
and when you said you recommended Gatorade, you're talking about just plain old Gatorade, not the sugar-free kind.
Right. Because when you're on the pickleball court or any athletic field, one of the things that you're trying to prevent doing is running out of the glucose that's in your blood sugar and going into the glycogen that's stored in your muscles. Because once you go into those glycogen stores and deplete them all, then we do what's called, in track world, we call it hitting the wall, or cross country world, we call it hitting the wall. It could be tennis that we call it that too. You just can't perform anymore. So what we know is that for every hour of activity, most people need between 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate. So when you're on the court, it's hard to eat something that has to be digested. So this is when you want a simple carb, like what's in Gatorade, that can be used immediately versus causing your blood to be diverted to your digestive tract to digest some food. It can more easily be digested and keep the blood flow going to your muscles, like needs to happen when you're playing a sport.
Very interesting. Wow, learning a lot.
Well, and this is the thing that doesn't get explained. People talk about carbs, not having carbs, and things like that, and it's really important to kind of understand that. Now, there's other things that you can do. I mean, granola is a simple thing that some people can take bites of, and that works for them with water. Pretzels, another thing, because you're getting sodium and you're getting some carbohydrate in that. When I used to run 5Ks, 10Ks, marathons on a regular basis, I personally liked goos because I didn't want things feeling like it was sitting in my stomach. So not to talk about me personally, but that, there's little gummies you can get, and there's like gels and things like that. So,
now you talked about the sugar and how it replaced that. And so that it didn't go, I think you said, go into the stores that were in our muscles.
Right.
So let's talk. What can you tell me about muscle recovery? I mean, during play, we're getting tired. That could possibly be pulling, nutrients away from our muscles. After we play, especially people that might tend to cramp. What can we do for better muscle recovery during and after?
Well, so let's break that down for a second. Let's talk about cramping first. Okay. Cramping is probably for two reasons. Three reasons. Dehydration, so probably not hydrated very well. Electrolytes, and then it could also be the fact that you have gone into your glycogen stores. In other words, you didn't have enough carbohydrates, or maybe you didn't even have enough food throughout the week before, throughout the time right before when you started. If the games got delayed, you ate breakfast, you didn't have a snack, or you ate breakfast, lunch, and then the games were delayed and you didn't have a snack, and those kinds of things. So typically that's where I see cramping coming from, is in that regard. Most of the time with athletes, it will be because of electrolytes or carbohydrates that are not available to them. So really important to work on those particular things. If you're getting tired during a pickleball game, my guess is, one, you didn't feel enough before, the time before that particular day. And you may not have fueled enough during the whole week before. Remember, our muscles were playing on the food that we actually ate 3 days before that stored in our muscles the glycogen from, the food that we took in. So think about it like this. You eat food, it gets converted to glucose. Your body uses what it needs. It keeps some in your bloodstream, and then it stores some in your muscles as glycogen so that your body can call on it and convert it as it needs it. But if we don't have full glycogen stores, or we haven't eaten enough, throughout the day, the week, then that's when we have some issues and the tiredness.
So if we're prepping for a tournament, let's say we've got a tournament coming up a week or 2 weeks ahead, what's your advice nutritionally to get pickleball players ready to do a 3-day tournament?
So the first and most important thing is to eat regularly every day. That's the first most important thing, where you've got your carbs, your proteins, your fruits, your vegetables, your dairy, your whole components. Also, depending on the amount of time that you are practicing or playing games before, making sure you're recovering after that. And we'll talk about that muscle recovery in just a minute, because I know you asked me about that. But that's really important. Hydration, really important all those days before. I know some people say to carbohydrate load, days before and things like that. I think it's more important to eat regular and have carbs at your meals all of the time, so that you're consistently keeping your glycogen stores where they need to be versus pumping those up those few days before. Now, I'm sorry.
What kind of carbs?
Well, so a mix of carbs, complex carbohydrates for sure at your meals, after practice, right prior to practice. Those are going to need to be simple carbs. In other ones that can be digested more quickly. So we're looking at things like whole grains, like, beans, corn, potatoes. Those are all rice, quinoa. Those are all going to give you, the ability to function better and to have glycogen stores that are going to be helpful to you. So that's important, but it's also just as important to have protein at your meals. And I don't mean a lot of protein, depending on your age, anywhere from 20 to 40 grams of protein at each meal. As we age, we need more. And I throw that in because I know a lot of pickleball players tend to be, my generation, and on the side where we need a little more protein. Doesn't mean we don't need carbs. We just need a little more protein at each of our meals to help, preserve our muscle mass.
So is it still about the size of a fist? Is that what you're talking about? I've seen that guideline before.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more to be 40 grams, because that's more like a 20 grams is what that would be.
Okay, so you mean I'm not supposed to be eating salad and other things that are healthy afterwards?
Well, I don't know if I'd word it quite like that, but what I would say is that for the fiber content of foods, you have to be careful. So when you eat a salad for lunch and then you're going to play pickleball 2 hours later, you're probably going to have some kind of GI distress because that fiber has not been digested. So save your salad for the last meal of the day. Make sure you put your protein and you put your carbohydrates on there. So that's a really important piece of that. Be cognizant of what other foods you eat that are high in fiber. Like if you're eating a bunch of vegetables right before you go to play pickleball, the uncooked vegetables that are high in fiber, then you might also have GI distress from that. So picking and choosing when you're going to have those types of foods is really important.
And would that apply to things also like almonds that are high in fiber and certain other nuts?
Yes.
So
and you can have those.
There's something in it.
Well, you can have those before, but it really depends on how soon before. And that's twofold, fiber and fat. in that one. So it's going to take a little longer for it to be digested, you know? So that's why we talk about that 1 hour to half hour window of having carbohydrates, you know, like you would mainly have something that's carbohydrates and easily digested. So it might be a liquid, it might be a bar, it might be crackers, it might be pretzels, it might be peanut butter and crackers, but something that's going to be more easily digested in that hour to 30 minutes before. I mean, the main thing I would say is skipping meals, you know, not eating consistently, really every 3 to 4 hours throughout the day, so that, you know, you're putting enough protein in your body to prevent breakdown of your muscle, you know, not hydrating. The one thing we didn't talk about with hydration is actually kind of learning your sweat rate so that you know how much you need to drink while you're on the court. So weigh yourself in right before you get on the court, weigh yourself after you get off the court. This is like a quick and easy, not exact way of doing it, but it works. Any weight that you've lost is fluid that you lost in sweat. So replace each pound with 16 ounces to 24 ounces of Gatorade, or water and pretzels or something like that, but some kind of fluid with the electrolytes. So, that's another reason why we see milk being used and things like that for that reason. Anytime you can eat tart cherries, also a good anti-inflammatory for athletes. With some of my athletes, depending on the team, we do tart cherry juice or tart cherry juice and protein powder. As their recovery, like they might do that instead of chocolate milk, because then we're getting the protein from the protein powder and we're getting the availability of the anti-inflammatory effects of the tart cherries. But you can also eat tart cherries. I've been on a little bit of a potato, trying to, you know, do things that are easy, quick, and inexpensive for student athletes. And so we've been doing some potato things with like energy bites and bowls that have, you know, potatoes as the main ingredient and different things like that. So
what about grapes? I have taken frozen grapes with me to turn
excellent for the pickleball
on and keep me cool at the same time.
Yep. Excellent for the pickleball court. High fluid fruit. So that's, you know, that's a good thing. There are homemade sports drinks that you can make if people don't want to make, if they don't want to drink Gatorade. There's a couple of different ones. We have one that we call COUGAR juice that has, you know, pineapple juice, coconut water and salt and water in it. There's others where you can just use water and like a little bit of lemon juice and a little bit of whatever juice you like with some sugar and salt, you know, to make your own. I can share those with you if you'd like, if you might want to put those up or something. So
sure, yeah, I can leave them down in the description of the YouTube video and people can find them there. That'd be awesome.
Sure.
Super. Charlotte, I appreciate it so much. I have learned a lot. I have been doing things totally wrong. And I will start to do them better today so that I can feel better. As a matter of fact, I've got a tournament coming up in a little bit longer than a week. So now's a great time for me to turn that around and start doing things that are going to be more healthy and will allow me to recover faster. So thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate you taking the time.
You're welcome.